Okay. So Shola, I initially met in Startup Weekend. My friend Luis Martinez that I met. Actually, no, let me say it. Startup Week is where I met up. Because I met Luis at Startup Weekend. And we had won the Startup Weekend competition. And then that's how I got into my entrepreneurship journey. And then after, I would say, a month, 2 months, I had some other workforce development projects I was working on with other companies. And then it's like, you know what? You got to meet, Luis was like, you got to meet Shola. Like, y'all would connect. And here's the kicker. What he didn't know is that I was raised by a Nigerian man. And so when I met Shola, I was like, as soon as I heard her name, I was like, I wonder if she's Nigerian, and then if she's Igbo or she's Yoruba. And then as soon as we met, it was this like kinfolk connection. And then we started talking about our upbringing, how we were raised, and all that stuff.
Nice. Are you watching that Netflix show, How to Ruin a Wedding?
No, I need to watch that. Have you watched it? Is it pretty good?
Yeah. I think I don't know if I finished. I don't know if it was season 1 or 2, but I think I finished it already. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool seeing Africans on on Netflix. I like all the shows. I'm East African, so I'm Eritrean. So
all right, okay.
Yeah, I could relate a little bit. And then I've always had Nigerian roommates or just like friends in college. I went to UCLA for undergrad. So a lot of my friends were Nigerian. Nice.
So me, I don't know if you resonate with this at all, but since my stepdad was Nigerian and I didn't have that Nigerian name like my brothers and sisters, I was in this weird paradox growing up where Black Americans didn't fully embrace me, and then Nigerians didn't fully embrace me because I didn't fully go through their their process of immigration and their culture. Although I was in tune with the culture, they just didn't feel I was Nigerian enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever had
Were
that.
you born in the U.S. though?
Yeah, I was born in the U.S. So my biological dad is African American.
Oh, okay.
So what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say I was born in Sudan, and so when I came here, I had like a thick accent from I think until age 10 or 11. So I remember it was just obvious. Everyone knew I was like the new kid because in elementary school, I transferred elementary schools. And so I was always a new kid with the accent, So I felt like I didn't quite fit in as well, Nah. But San Diego, in San Diego, there's so many Eritreans and Ethiopians. So it's not like they were confused what I was. It was just more like, oh yeah, you're this, and every stereotype that went with it, Yeah. So I did kind of feel out of place, but then until I went to college, and then that's where I felt like, oh cool, I got to like the Nigerians. It was the example. So like meeting a whole bunch of Nigerians, meeting more Ethiopian and Eritreans in college, and starting a student group. I think I was able to embrace my identity. And then by the time you got to college, it was kind of cool that you're African. Whereas in high school, middle school, it wasn't as cool, Yeah.
I didn't think so. I felt like being African has been the cool thing for, I want to say, the past 5-6 years. There was a brief period of time where it was not cool to be African. And then I'll even go back further. In the mid-90s, and now I'm telling my age, it was really cool to be African because they used to rock the big African medallions. Everybody was rocking HBCU with African colors and patterns, and that went away for a bit, and then now I feel like it's back again.
Oh, wow. See, I don't remember like how it was in the mid 90s. I just, I'm probably your age, but I don't remember that. I just, it must have been very brief before I could enjoy it, because I don't remember it being cool growing up. There was always that annoying movie Roots that everyone referenced, and I was like, what the heck is this movie that everyone's talking about, you know? I was like, what's happening? But yeah, luckily I was like kind of like the quiet one, you know, so there wasn't a lot of material to use on me, but whenever they did mention it, they would bring up that movie or bring up, and then I was like really skinny, so that didn't do me any good.
There's like, it's true, see, we need to feed them.
They're like, hey, how come your sisters are like normal weight and you're like that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know.
I'm last to the dinner table. I'm vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So let me give you the premise of the podcast, just in case you're not familiar. I started this podcast in COVID after everybody kept telling me, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. And through my time in workforce development and then getting in and transitioning to entrepreneurship and the startup space, I was meeting so many amazing Black founders, inventors, movers and shakers, community builders. And I was like, where have all you been? Like, I didn't even know I didn't even know this was going on. And I knew that our stories weren't being told enough, because here's what happens in the workforce development space. I used to do work with all these different HR departments to build career programs for Opportunity U, for disadvantaged people. And a lot of those people look like us. And when I would go into these schools to talk about these programs and try to get people to sign up and explore these programs, there was always some apprehension, like either a limiting belief that, you know, yeah, that's not for me, or we can't do that, or there's only a chosen few that get to do it, and we're not part of the chosen few. And I knew I needed to start a platform to show more stories of us, how we did it, and so people can start to believe that, no, you can do it. Look here's your story here. Here's your story here. And if it's not your story, here's some inspiration, and here's a blueprint, and take what you need from that to get you to the next spot of whatever that is. So that's the small, minuscule of why I started this podcast. The bigger, thank you. The bigger version is by me growing up in both a Nigerian and a Black American culture, I've got to see and both sides of the hemisphere, and there's a misunderstanding between the both groups, and there's similar struggles with both groups. And what I would like to do is bridge the gap and create a relationship with all the Black and Africans in the diaspora, and then hopefully build a community, build a big community of networking, of mentorship, of masterminds like you do, and funding that helps fund our businesses to keep the Black dollar in circulation with all the Blacks in the diaspora. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go into mostly your journey into your career and how you transitioned. And we'll make a stop along the way with things that you're passionate about, and then give a people what you're currently working on and where you're going. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. Well, I already hit record, so let's do the intro. My engineers have a fun time editing that because we just started into conversation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of RisePreneurs. I got a special guest in the building today. Let me make sure I'm saying it right. Meri.
Meri.
All right. So Meri, and I should have known that already because we had a long conversation before we got to this point. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I loved, like you said, talking to you just earlier. I feel like we have a lot in common, and I could see this conversation going more than an hour if we weren't on a podcast.
Yeah. We're going to try to keep it an hour, but we'll take it wherever it goes.
Awesome.
All right. So for the people who don't know you, I'm going to ask you a really deep question. You could go how deep you want to go, or you can keep it serve. I'm going to let you decide.
Okay.
But who is Meri?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good one. I would say, I'm a sister. I have 2 older sisters. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter, a child of God. And entrepreneur, like just very persistent. Like I'm a survivor, I would say. So that's who I am.
Yeah, I love that.
But I also, I'm also have like a silly side and a goofy side and a playful side. But when it comes to like handling things, I could be, type A, but then on like hanging out and, if I want to have a good time, I could definitely let loose.
Yeah, so. I love that. I got that too. Now, what's funny? I just had an aha moment. I was like, she looks so familiar. I'm trying to, I know she knows Shola, but I feel like I know you from somewhere. And I realize now we've been in some of the same spaces, although we've never met. Like Connect All, my boy Fred Greer, I think he told me about you because you did an article in a San Diego Business. Is it San Diego Business Journal?
Yeah, San Diego Business Journal. So that came out, I think, last week. So I was nominated for the 2021 Black-owned business in San Diego. So I was a finalist. Yeah.
Congratulations! How did that come about?
You know what? I have no idea. It's so crazy because in December 2020, I won the Connect All at the Jacobs Center Cohort 3 startup pitch competition that Union Bank and Connect All were hosting. And at that time, actually, I was like grinding so hard right before that. And then I remember like some personal issues happened where it was actually very difficult to like just continue, really. I'll talk about that later, but luckily through the support of the Jacobs Center and the friends in my life, I was like, man, I gotta do this pitch competition. Somehow got it done. It's all a blur, but then I won audience choice for my pitch. So the pitch that I was struggling to even record at the time. So I won that. I think I got like 700 votes and like 2,100 views on YouTube for my pitch.
Nice.
And then I won second place for the competition. So I got a $5,000 grant.
Nice.
So I thought that was done. I was like, oh, okay, we ended 2020 right. All the craziness and shenanigans that were happening in 2020. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. And then miraculously, January and February, I got all this media interest in the fact that, me, Jasmine, and Anahi from Worthy Picks. And I'm just want to, represent Jasmine too, because she's the CEO of the STEAM Collaborative.
Yes.
Anyway, so we won this award, and I won it for Meri Consulting Services, my consulting company. And we got so many interviews from KUSI, CBS 8, the Union Tribune interview. I was in articles. I was in the San Diego Magazine. It just kept going and going, and I was like, wow! And so it was really a story of just when you want to give up, like really don't give up and push through. Because if I would have given up I think it was like November, if I gave up in November of 2020, then I wouldn't have been here and got all of this recognition and having a feature in the San Diego Business Journal for a company that I just launched like full time March 2020. So So anyway, so that was just my story of like, don't give up. And I don't know how it happened. It might have been from the hard work before November, because I know November I was just like kind of like very exhausted at that point.
Yeah.
So
Let's just say the ancestors was looking out for you. They're like, no, you've been who we waiting for, so we gotta push you through this door, even if you're gonna go kicking and screaming.
yeah. And then I think you also met me, and that's how I met Edisola, but I was the vice president of Nesby Entrepreneurship for about a year. So all of 2020, I was hosting those virtual events. So we were using my Zoom account and I was doing the breakout rooms. I don't know if you remember me, but I was the host going, hold on, guys, let me figure out this breakout room situation. And so that's pretty much it. So we were doing like in-person meetings, all through like 2019, and then 2020 happened, and then we just had to move to a virtual platform. And then by like September 2020, I spun off, created my own mastermind group. And so now we have I think like over 300 members, 160 members on LinkedIn who've joined the Empowerment Mastermind. So you can find that at Empowerment Mastermind. But yeah, so it's been like a journey, so now I host CEO panelists, and similar to what you're doing, I get to hear these stories from diverse founders who kind of break down like the secrets, whether it's marketing tips, their entrepreneurship journey. It's been pretty cool. And for me, I had a nice opportunity because I was in the corporate world for about 5 years in the IT world. So I had a lot of relationships. So I never ran out of executives to reach out to. So there was always someone willing to volunteer their time to share, like you said, the gems of how to run a business, how to negotiate salary. So we had top companies and top organizations like the CEO of the Asian Business Association, Crow Holdings, which is a multi-billion-dollar real estate firm. So the CIO, the chief information officer, actually came to our session and then broke down some things for us. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a beautiful story too. And I think what I love most about your press run is that, and I think in the San Diego, I want to say in the San Diego Business Journal, they told a little bit about your backstory, and your journey to here. So could you share that, a little bit of that with us?
Oh yeah. That's so crazy because that was the first time I ever stated about my journey and the hardships that I went through. But yeah, came to San Diego as an immigrant. Really struggled. We were really poor actually. And, but my parents did a good job where I didn't really know we were poor like that. So yeah, there was days where, we didn't really have food some of the days, so like we just ate rice or whatever we were doing. But my dad was always an entrepreneur, so he was always fixing cars outside. He was a mechanic in Sudan. He was actually very successful in Sudan. So he was actually like pretty wealthy there. But then we had to flee from the war, not only a war in Eritrea against Ethiopia, but then there was like issues in Sudan too. So we came to the U.S. As refugees. We stayed at a refugee camp and everything, came to the U.S. I went to Roosevelt, San Diego High. These are inner city schools. Half the students are failing actually in that high school. But my mom really instilled education and, ended up getting a full scholarship to UCLA for undergrad and then grad school. It was like an all-encompassing scholarship. Another moment of thank God I did that because I didn't even know it was going to set me up, 10 plus years later. And so like, I remember my dad kind of telling me like, hey, we can't afford college and you better get good grades or you're not going to college. And then I remember like that junior year, I was freaking out and I was like working really hard. I saved, my dad gave me some money, but I saved money for like prom and senior pictures. So like pretty much it felt like we were always struggling. And I also grew up in a single parent household too. So it was me and my two sisters. And so we didn't really it was just survival mode pretty much. And then, like African moms, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like African moms put a lot of pressure on you. So,
oh yeah, and dads.
yeah, it was always like, you're the reason we came to this country. You better do well, kind of thing. And you better help us, And so it was just like ingrained in me to like one day be able to buy my mom a house. And so my sisters and I actually had the opportunity to do that in 2018. So, got her the house she's been telling us about. So that was like a great experience. And then recently I just moved into a new condo. This is where I'm at right now. And so that happened also this year in 2021. So it was just like an interesting journey of like, there were just like a lot of rough times, and then eventually that rough time pays off, as long as you're diligent. And I have my faith too. So I'm always praying to God, and, and then there's like fun times too in between those stories. But
absolutely. And I feel like the tough times only makes you stronger. And so when you get to that point where you get to a breaking point for the next time, when you have to all these deadlines for the pitch competition, press run, getting a funding venture together, whatever the next future thing is, it builds you for that, and it preps you for that and primes you for that. So I appreciate the tough times. Now, I love the backstory because we often have, or sometimes what I come across is people become victim of their circumstances. And I was one of those people, and I see it happening in the communities that I go back and try to help. And that's why I like giving the backstory to say, like, no, this person didn't come from a silver spoon like you may think when you see them where they're at right now today without knowing the backstory. But there was a beginning somewhere, and it's not always about where you start, but it's about the journey and where you end up at. And so I know you had a lot of different jobs, and this is a long setup to the question. You've did everything from sales development representative to like account executive, to now CEO. But what I really want to know is, what was your first job? And here's the reason for that, because a lot of people think that, I can't take a job that was going to mess up my career, and I'm not going to learn anything from that. But I think there's something that you can learn from every first job that you can take away. So what was your first job, and what's one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, so my first job, I had like a job with my dad, but I'm not going to count that because that was just him trying to get me to earn the money he was paying me. So I had to like go to his shop every Saturday, and literally I wasn't really doing anything, but he wanted to like make me feel like I was earning the money. I don't know. So anywho, but my first job was UCLA Hospital. And oh my gosh, this is actually a good story. You just reminded me. So this was 2008 during the recession. I just graduated from UCLA for undergrad. So, this is the dream my mom has been telling me: go to college, get your bachelor's degree. You're going to make a lot of money, allegedly. And so 2008, it didn't matter who you were. There was no jobs. And so what I did is I got like kind of like a 2-week temp role at UCLA Hospital through Manpower. And so like every day I was going to this Manpower lady and giving her muffins and telling her, please call me if there's a job, because there was no job. And at that time it was between like staying in LA or coming to San Diego, because I had no job. And I think I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was like, if you move, we're over.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. And he was like, he wouldn't have done it. Now that in hindsight, he wouldn't have done it. So then I was like, okay, well, if I move, I'm not going to be with this guy. Let me figure this out. And so I ended up getting a 2-week temp job at UCLA Hospital. And then they loved me so much that he extended it to 2 months. And then I got like a full-time job, like right after that. I found like a department that was open. But those jobs actually is the reason why I went to grad school.
Okay.
Because the job was so rough. Okay. And so you're working at, and no knock to UCLA Medical Center, but man, we had to like answer 100 patient calls per day, and you're doing like lab results, and they're always angry. And it wasn't like an emergency room, it was just internal medicine, but the patients were always angry, and I would always try to go above and beyond for them. So then I guess that taught me customer service. And so then I ended up getting into grad school, and I was an assistant to 3 doctors. So it was like 3 doctors, and it was a call center.
Wow.
And I remember I had like this hard ass doctor, Dr. Greenberg, I'll say his name. And Dr. Greenberg was like so tough, you know, because if you messed up, he didn't like it, you know? And so everyone kind of would tell me about him, but I actually liked his style. He knew what he wanted. And so I just got it done. And then I remember for Christmas, he got me a scarf. And I remember one of my friends, she's like, oh my God, he never does that, you know? And so when I ended up telling him I was going to, you know, go to grad school and leave, he was really sad about it. But then he wrote me a letter of recommendation for public health school. And so anyway, so that was my first job. It was a lot. Like, I remember they had like, I don't know why they did this, but they had a cowbell, and they would be like, get on the phone, you know, and they would time. They called it the queue, and they would say, you know, you guys are on the queue too much. So you have to like register them really quick and do all their health insurance. Anyways, it was a lot. And so it was a lot of pressure, but all the employees, like, you know how sometimes in offices, people don't like each other. Yeah. We like try to help each other because we just knew like this job was like really hard. And so there was never office dramas because we were all focused on work.
Oh man, you had a great call center job because I've been in a couple call center jobs, and I don't remember all the employees banding together. It was like every man for himself.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, that job, we banded together because there was just no time to start trouble.
Yeah. So shout out to Dr. Greenberg. You made Meri a better consultant and gave her a lifetime lesson that traveled with her.
Yeah, no, he's really cool. Everyone was cool. All the doctors are cool. But yeah, no, that job taught me like, okay, if I don't have a degree, this is when I was in the degree mindset. And so that mindset changes later in life. But at the time I was like, oh, okay, so that's maybe I should go to grad school because my boss had a master's in public health, and he oversaw like multiple departments in that hospital. And so I kind of was like, well, let me see how I could get to that position. And I know he had an MPH. So that kind of led to that. At the time I had deferred that scholarship. So I had 1 year to decide, like, you either go to grad school or you lose the scholarship. And so at the time, because I was only like 21, 22, I figured, hey, it's not going to hurt. Let me just do it, you know? And then 1 year into the MPH program, that's when I realized this is not for me. And so I applied to the MBA program at San Diego State. And so once my MPH program was over, I actually started that summer at San Diego State and got my MBA degree at San Diego State. But that experience was super crucial for me because that's when I joined my first business accelerator program called the Zip Launchpad. And so that's where I got to meet all these entrepreneurs. I got to pitch again. Like, so this is before I had my Connect All experience. So that experience helped me, like, because I won also second place for their competition. I don't know if it was 5,000. I think it was 5,000 or 2,500. I can't remember.
You like the second place queen. Every competition,
right?
you get second place.
I was like, why am I having second place? And I also got best video. So they always like my pitch or my concept. And then I won. I think I won like third place at the venture start competition. And I remember I was so nervous. This is before I won second place. The third place really taught me, like, speak up, be confident, and yeah, so just did a whole bunch of things outside of my comfort zone. And the reason I did all these things was because it was my second master's degree, actually. Because I was like, at this point, who cares? Just, just network, do all the things you want to do. And I actually told myself this mantra every day. Whenever I would get anxiety, I would go think about what President Barack Obama is dealing with right now. So I told myself that every day before I would go into business school, because it was kind of intimidating. Like it was kind of weird because I was like, I went to UCLA for grad school, but San Diego State, maybe because semester system, I don't know why. These classes were like long and you had to do a whole bunch of things that I didn't do at UCLA, like take quizzes and all this stuff. Right. And so I would kind of get like nervous going to class. And then once I completed my first year, the second year was super easy. Uh-huh. But the first year was a little challenging. And then on top of that, I was doing a lot. I was like I forgot my title, like marketing person for the Graduate Student Association. So we would host these mixers. So I just try to network and meet as many people as I could. Yeah. So,
and here you are today. You know what? I would have never guessed that you get nervous public speaking or around people, because you seem like just such a natural at it. Every time I've seen you, and now just in this engagement, like, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert?
Oh, I'm actually an extrovert, but it's so funny you said that, because in my MBA program, we do presentations, and I remember I would purposely take off my glasses so I wouldn't see the audience, and I would do my presentations like that. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But no, I'm a definite extrovert, but it takes a lot of energy, like you have to like pump yourself up. It's a lot of energy. Yeah. I don't care how much I love talking to people. It's, when you're even like the KUSI interview and the CBS 8 interview, I was so nervous, like not necessarily when it got recorded, but after, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to look in this?
The whole world is about to see me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it's so funny because I say a lot. So I'm going to tell you one of my weaknesses, but I say a lot. And I remember I felt really bad about that, and I would try to change it, and it would take a lot longer than I wanted to change saying it. But now I watch like CNBC, the guy that does Mad Money. Mm-hmm. That guy says 24/7. Like every word is an So it's kind of like, hey, I'm not perfect, but I'm gonna get out there, I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna get my message out. And, that's the best I could do. Obviously, I could improve, and I should work on my public speaking more. But yeah,
you can always improve. And just so you know, I say a lot too. I remember listening to the first couple of my episodes. I was like, man, I say a lot. I need to figure out how to change that.
You know what? If you have a script, you could change that. It's not going to be as natural.
Yeah.
And so,
but I don't want a script. I like natural conversation, like we're in flow, because I want them to feel like this is a real conversation. It wasn't scripted. And so. Yeah. Yeah. And we do some editing, but not too much where it sounds like stale and cold. All right, so this has been a great. I'll try to figure out where we transition you to. Let's do this. Let's talk about, because you've had a very vibrant career in life. What would you say is one good life lesson that life has taught you? So, what's one good lesson that life has taught you?
Okay, I'm going to read a quote on this one, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lisa Nichols, but she said, don't share your $1 million dreams with dollar thinkers. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I like that.
Yeah, so it just pretty much means like in your life, you're going to try to share your ideas with people, and they might persuade you otherwise, So I have a whole bunch of stories of this, like I was just talking about this yesterday. So I was studying psychology at UCLA. I had a professor, believe it or not, I think he was like Panamanian. But he was Afro-Panamanian, so I felt comfortable with him, right? So I'm like, oh, cool, the first Black professor I've seen in a while. And so I went to his class, and I would do office hours with him. And I knew this other graduate student, she was Black, and she was super cool. And she was like, Meri, you could do this. You could, get your master's in psychology. This is an undergrad, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to say it was undergrad, not grad school. And so I go to the Panamanian professor and I tell him, man, I was talking to her and I'm like, I love that lady. I want to be just like her, And he literally was like, what's your GPA? And like totally crushed my dreams and was like, you can't be her. She's amazing. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard that before. He was like, she's amazing. Don't you know who she is? Like, that's not going to be you. And I was like, okay. Never had that. Well, I probably had that experience before, but it was a while, like when you don't experience something in a while and it throws you off. And then, so I pretty much didn't pursue psychology for my master's because of what he said.
Shame on him.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because like, look, I got into the public health program, which is top 10 in the country. And I got into UCLA for that program. So it was kind of like, I could have done whatever I wanted to,
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, like when someone tells you like it can't be done, sometimes it makes you not want to put in effort. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my story of from that point on, whenever I had a goal or wanted to do something, I always ignore the naysayers because everyone's going to tell you it can't be done because either they're lazy to do it, they don't believe in you or something. So like, it could be done. Like when I got into UCLA for undergrad, they were going through some stuff. I don't know if you remember this was 2004 where I got into that program, but people were on wait lists. It was the lowest like admittance rate. There's a lot going on. It was there was 0.1% African Americans accepted to UCLA or people of color or Black people. Sorry, not people of color because there's a lot of other minorities at UCLA, but I could have taken those stats then and went, I'm not going to get into UCLA. And my classmates who also told me you can't get in. I've also had counselors tell me I couldn't get in high school, but something happened in college, maybe because I felt like an imposter in college, right? So anytime I heard something negative, I kind of went with it. I was kind of a negative, not a negative thinker, but like, I just felt so weird in college, because I was in inner city schools and then you throw me in Westwood in LA and everyone's driving Beamers and Range Rovers and there's so many white people. So it kind of it threw me off and everyone spoke so eloquently. And so I was kind of intimidated in discussion, talk about public speaking. I did not want to talk. I purposely picked classes where there was no discussion. If there's a discussion, I'm not in that class. And then one day I started looking at my classmates and going, oh, duh, because English is their first language in their home. And their parents probably debated with them and talked to them. Whereas in my household, you're not debating, you're talking. Like, it's kind of like, hey, be quiet and do your grade, do your classwork. And so once I realized they're just good speakers and their grade didn't reflect how well they were BSing pretty much. That's when my life shifted and I realized there's a lot of people in the world that are going to talk the talk. And then there's only a few people who are actually going to grind and make it happen. And so, and fortunately or unfortunately, I've always been the grinder, hard worker. And, one way or another, I'm going to go up. So that's pretty much my lesson. Like, if you have a dream, oh man, I'm taking Will Smith's line. If you have a dream, you got to protect it,
But that's a good one.
Got to protect it.
Now I realize why you friends with Shola, because y'all got that same mindset. Like, I'm not about talking. Let's do. Action.
Oh, I love action. I love action. I can't sit there with people talking about, I'm not a fantasy girl. I'm more of a, let's do it,
Another thing that resonated with me is the fact that you mentioned, sometimes your naysayers, you know, when they tell you you can't do something, what they're really saying is they can't do it. I remember a clip from one of the Jay-Z bio docs where he's talking about when he first sold his first 100,000 records, and his uncle was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, you think you big time now? That just because you sold 100,000 records, but you'll never sell 1,000,000 records." And he goes, "I sold 1,000,000 records 1,000 times." So it's usually the people who couldn't do it or who haven't done it, who are telling you can't do something. So you can't, like, that's a quote Will Smith again, but you got to protect your dream. You can't listen to the naysayers, because what is meant for you is meant only for you, and the vision is only going to be sent to you. And so you have to act on the vision. And whatever their vision is and what was meant for them is meant for them, and they have to act. So it's hard for you to ask for career advice or advice about what you should do with your life to somebody else, because they don't have your vision and they can't see it from your vision. So you have to create the vision yourself and get the tools from them that can help you create the vision.
Yeah, I think in that same line, he was referring to when you look at people and go, should I do this? Should I do X, Y, and Z? And those people are not even qualified to even help you with that, you know? Like, a lot of times we're like, not to knock my parents sometimes, but, they're telling me about wealth, but they haven't acquired wealth at that time, So all they're doing is the best that they can. And so all you have to do is like search within, get good mentors, obviously, who are a couple steps ahead of you or more, and then kind of just follow that path. But yeah, for sure, everything you need is really in you. And so that's actually what I've been doing during this quarantine, is like really finding out who I am, what I like to do. Now that we, all the distractions are shut off, there's no bar, there's no friends, there's no restaurant, there's no happy hour, like the things that we leaned on in the past. And I'm like a social person, right? So I would take out clients. Sometimes my clients were my friends because I was like working so much in sales. And so I would go meet with my clients, and I would feel great because, not only did I help my client, I got a sale. There was always like external stuff making me feel good, or going to the gym, like there was things that I did. And then with the quarantine, that's when it was like, oh crap. Like, especially if you're an extrovert, that's like freaking torture, what we're going through right now for an extrovert. Like, there's people that are literally, I've talked to other people, they're depressed. I had dark days too, but it wasn't because of the quarantine, it was like other stuff. But yeah, no, everyone is like struggling. And so now I like try to take it to the basics, like, what do I like to do? All right, I like to play basketball. I'll make time to play basketball. I like beach volleyball. Make the time to play beach volleyball. Like, take it really way back. And it's been an interesting experience, and being okay with being alone, Again, introverts won't get that because they were already alone and in their rooms a lot or doing stuff solo. But like, if you grew up, like for me, I grew up in a household with sisters in the same room. I didn't have my own room until I went to college. Well, no, even in college we had to share, right? Yeah, I didn't have my own room until I left undergrad. And yeah, like, so it was like a lot later. It was like 23, 24. I had my own room, And so going from always being around people to, people could get you sick, it's pretty crazy. And there's a lot of us that are like, you know what, I'm gonna bite the bullet and expose myself because we want that connection so bad, But now I feel like even the most introvert risk taker is kind of like, dude, everyone is sick. I'm not even going to risk it, So which they shouldn't to begin with.
They probably double down on that like, oh, I'm living in this bubble.
Yeah. So now I'm more of an introvert because I'm not talking to as many people as I used to. But
I have a feeling you found new ways to talk to people through these masterminds, the videos. You're talking to people, but it's a different type of communication.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, the mastermind every third Wednesday, and I'm always prepping for that. And I have volunteers that actually help with that. So shout out to Chris and Nathan Dean, Chris Mabry, Veronica Jones, Meri Birhane. Like, so those are the people that help with the mastermind.
Awesome.
And so it's been great, like connecting with people on that level. So you're right. I found a loophole, created a loophole for myself.
And I love the fact that you love basketball, because I do too. And when we ever get back to people congregating again, we might have to do a pickup game.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty good with my shot. I got to work on my layup.
Okay.
And so that's why I usually say no layups when you play against me.
All right. So we have you over there in the corner like Steph Curry, just like Steph Curry.
Yeah, and I love playing at the courts by the beach. That's my favorite.
I haven't played over there in a while, but I love that too. We get good pickup basketball over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. There is this influencer, you know, the professor on YouTube.
I remember the professor. He out there?
Yeah, he was there last Saturday.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, man.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone was like recording him. I didn't know who he was until after, but like people were recording him.
He was from the N1 tournaments. He was really popular. Like, he's still popular.
Yeah, he has an interesting journey too. Like, had it rough. Then he found God, and YouTube helped him with his career. But he was like broke for a long time, based on his documentary that I watched. Because I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I watched that. So
I didn't know that, but I'm about to watch the documentary now. But I just remember him from the N1 tournaments, and like they used to pick on him a lot in the beginning, and then he just started. He was just showing people up. And I was like, okay, look at this little white boy.
Yeah. So he was like obsessed with basketball in high school, and he didn't get into college for basketball. So he was crushed because he would spend so much hours, and then went to community college, and then just didn't get anything out of it, and then discovered this N1 thing at age 18, and he killed it, you know, and then they had him on tour. But anyway, so then there was like more stories about him, but he was definitely an underdog. And I love those stories, like hearing people who don't give up, you know,
and keep fighting for their dreams. So let's talk about some more strategic steps now, to how you got to where you're at. Cause there's somebody probably listening to this right now and they're inspired of like, you know, I want to know, how do I get into the tech space? How do I get into consulting? How do I like some of what she's done in her career, but I like what, when, how, where, and all that good stuff. So what's some advice you would give to someone who would like to start a career in your industry? What's some piece of advice you would give?
Yeah, well, I got into sales first. So my mentor told me if you conquer sales, if you master sales, you could do anything. And so that was my mentality. So worked at a couple of sales jobs. Like one was like super hard, but that sales role helped open up the doors for me for other jobs because they trained me so much. So if you could find a company that could train you and kind of put that pressure on you, because that's what happened. So I had to make like 75 dials, had to book like 10 or 11 meetings a week. And so it was challenging, and I won't lie. There was nights I lasted at that job for about 8 months before I quit, but the turnover rate was like 3 months. So like it was a hard job. And so I pretty much would come home like sad. I feel like there was nights where I was crying actually. And then I remember my sisters would be like, why are you doing this job? Like, and I was working until like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. trying to get a sale. And I'm, you know, maybe if you could find an in-between job like that, like maybe not too extreme where your self-esteem is being
being beat up.
Yeah, because I would get a lot of people would hang up And I didn't realize all my coworkers, we would call the same people. And so I didn't get that. So it would be very frustrating. So you're calling people that have already been called by 10 other people at your company, you know? And that was the company's model. It was just dial as many times as you can until something sticks, you know?
Gotcha.
And, you know, there's a place for that, but I wasn't into that. So got hung up on, it was very difficult. And so that's when I discovered LinkedIn. LinkedIn helped me avoid the calls. And so at the time, my bosses would be very mad because I would be on LinkedIn instead of making my calls. And it was one of those open floor plans. So there was like 80 employees and you could hear everybody's conversations. So me on LinkedIn, it was obvious, you know, like we all had the headsets. It was like a kind of like a call center of just outbound calls. And so me on LinkedIn, they would tell me like, Meri, get off of LinkedIn, like make your dials. But I was booking 11 meetings a week. And I would win, they would give us jerseys if you won that week. And I would get most meetings because I would book it all through LinkedIn. So anyway, so that's how I got into the LinkedIn training space, is because of my experience doing that. And so anyway, so I would just recommend like pick a job where they're going to train you the foundation, the basics, but don't be hard on yourself, you know? And then what I did is after that really difficult job, which was like I don't know if it was a multi-billion-dollar company, but I worked for a company with 70 employees right after. And that was my fit. I figured out I don't like to be the small fish in a big pond. I like to be the big fish in a small pond, so a smaller firm. And that firm, every time I booked a meeting, they were so excited. Like, thank you, Meri, for this meeting. And I'm like, oh, whereas that place, one meeting a week, you would be like a loser, like literally, because it was one of those cultures. And they would put your rankings on who had the most meetings and the calls. So you go to the kitchen and then you're on page, because it was a big company, on page 30 at the bottom, you know, so it didn't make you feel good. But with this company, it was like anything I did, they were excited, and 10 to 13 meetings a week, they loved it, you know? And so once I discovered, hey, I'm really good at booking meetings, I got a promotion and then became an account executive, which means you do the full sales cycle. You're not just booking meetings. Now you're meeting with clients, you're, you know, doing presentations, you're helping, you know, create the proposal, you're talking to legal, you're doing red lines, you're closing the deal, and then you're onboarding the client, you know? So I got a chance to learn the full sales cycle. So I did that for a year, got promoted to went to another company. They paid me way more money than that, because now I had the reputation of I've generated X amount of revenue. I think so I think it's all on LinkedIn. You can see how much money I've generated. But so then once you go to a company and you go, hey, this is my success, then it's a lot easier to negotiate your salary, you know, negotiate your terms. Because early on in my sales job, I actually wasn't getting commission because they told me, if you're new, you don't get commission. And that's not true, guys. So if you're getting into sales, like read your contract, understand the contract, and then also apply to other jobs and read their contracts to determine what is industry standard, you know? So I really recommend that. And then especially being a person of color and you have to like negotiate your salary, it's pretty tough and nerve wracking, you know? So, and especially if you need the job, it's kind of hard sometimes to be like, I don't want this job.
And for those of you wondering, she's generated over 3 million in products and services and sales. So she is the truth. Now, what would you say to that one person? I'm sitting at my cubicle. I've been in sales for a while now, and I'm ready to make the jump and transition. I've made a name for myself like you did. How do I go from this sales job to this account manager job and start my own consulting services?
Yeah, I always recommend, if you can, do it while you still are employed, you know? So I had an opportunity. So in 2017, I launched my company, but I only had 2 client gigs generated revenue really quick. But at the time I didn't process, what I'm doing, I could actually get paid for, because my trajectory at the time is I really wanted to be a VP of sales at a company. And so I was like trying to work really hard to be this VP of sales that always seemed elusive. My bosses, for whatever reason, you know how management is, they have their reasons. I also come off younger than I am sometimes, or just young looking, forget that I am. But I don't know. I feel like there's like barriers there. And so I didn't get a lot of opportunities. And then one day, March 2020 was the day I decided to go full time doing my own thing. And I was able to generate like 9,000, 10,000 a month during COVID. And so I was like, okay, well, if I could make sales during a pandemic, like, I think I could do it, But I wouldn't have known and had everything together if I didn't plan a couple years in advance, got my, my business entity done. I had all the templates I needed, all the emails, pretty much I had the structure ready. And, I sell sales playbooks. And so I had the bones of what this playbook would look like. And so when I would meet with a client, all I had to do was customize it. So it was a lot less work. And so I would highly recommend, like, get ready, prepare yourself, talk to clients or whatever you're selling, learn a skill. And when you think, hey, I could monetize this, and you're getting a good feedback from those customers, then you should pull the trigger and go full time. That's what I recommend, because I don't recommend just jumping into something when you're not ready, you're not prepared. But there's two schools of thought. That's just my personal school of thought. But you could do it any way that you want. Because of my experience of people telling me it can't be done, when someone comes to me and has an idea, I usually try to figure out how it could be done. And then I would talk to them based on that. But yeah, if anybody's interested in talking with me, you could email me at mericonsultingservices.com, and it's MERI for Mary. And I could give some tips based on that, but I do recommend, do the side hustle thing, see if you're generating revenue. If you're generating revenue, that's just indicator of this is going to work, so that's what I would do.
I love that. So what do you think the future has in store for your industry when it comes to the consulting service, business consulting, especially when you have this nice little niche of helping sales reps book more meetings and sales process and audit recommendations? What does the future have in store for this industry?
Yeah, there's going to be, and there already is, a lot of automation. So I teach clients how to do like the proper messaging on LinkedIn, right? How to connect with prospects. So I walk them through like a 9-week course of doing that. So now there's a lot of automation. So LinkedIn has plugins now where you can actually purchase software and it'll automate the messaging scripts. So you'll get the messaging script, let's say from me, or create it yourself. And then you plug it into the software, and then the software automatically sends customers the messaging, kind of similar to like HubSpot, but like LinkedIn specific. And then when the customer does an action, like reply, then you could reply to it as a person. So just more automation, a lot of these chat bots, a lot of B2B lead generation software that I just talked about. I know analytics is something people are always talking about. I could see that happening. And then for consultants in my space, a lot of training videos. So instead of doing one-on-one, you could actually, scale it a little bit more. And so that's what I'm working on for my business, is moving from one-on-one consults to automating my consultation. So that's what I'm working on.
Nice. I love that.
And then that would free up so much time too.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that you could do in business is get more time back, automate it. And that's the way to streamline your business and make your business more successful. Now we could be here talking for hours, but I like to keep it in a nice little drive time piece. I'm definitely going to probably have to have you come back to do a part 2 because I know there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to talk about. But for now, what projects are you currently working on, and where can people find you?
I'm working on right now. I'm training a VP of client relations at a real estate firm. So we're going through a LinkedIn training course, the one that I just mentioned. So we're at week 8. Also working with a bank right now of helping them with their LinkedIn training. So I'm moving towards like staff training and teaching folks how to utilize LinkedIn, so optimize their profile and get more leads. So that's pretty much the projects I'm working on right now. I also work with IT companies and I create them a sales playbook. So working with, we're in talks, I think that should close soon, but with a company in San Diego. So it's an IT provider. So that's pretty much what I'm working on. If you're interested in any of those services or just connecting with me, you can email me at meri@mericonsultingservices.com or just follow me on social media at Meri, again, MERI Consulting Services. So Meri Consulting Services.
Awesome. And for those of you who are driving who couldn't write that down, don't worry. I'm going to get all the links from her. I'm going to get the links to the mastermind and her social media, and I'll put it all in the show notes so you can just click on it.
Oh, yeah. The Empowerment Mastermind at Empowerment Mastermind. You could also find that on mericonsultingservices.com/empowerment. But that's the group you should attend. If you want to learn anything, it's free. There's a whole bunch of executives every third Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Join a mastermind session. There's always a guest speaker. We do breakout sessions. Our next one is March 17th, and we're talking about work-life balance.
Nice.
So if you just want to network and have a cool atmosphere to talk about that, the session will not be recorded because we want this to be more of a laid-back topic. But yeah,
you need to bring one of those onto Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse yet?
Exactly. So I was personally on Clubhouse. I was spending like 3 hours a day on Clubhouse. So I had to stop my first week of doing it. I don't know if you saw, well, we have to connect on social media, but I was like, hey guys, follow me on Clubhouse. It was like 2 months ago. I was like so pumped about Clubhouse. And then I realized, dang, I'm in that room for 3 hours because I like to moderate. I like to listen to, but I like to moderate. And so people would come into the room like a little bit late into the session. So then you kind of have to start all over again. And for someone like me who likes to talk, man, that was like draining because at the end of it, and it's not like, hey guys, let's talk about movies. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about business, how to launch their company. People were asking for advice. And I was like, oh gosh, 3 hours a day,
It gets intense. But you can build some great business relationships and contacts.
That's true. So we're gonna.
It's like the new LinkedIn to booking.
It is. I did notice a lot of people followed because I linked my Instagram, my company Instagram. So I got so many followers. Like that first week, I probably got 20, 30 followers. And it's hard to get followers as much. So I was like, wow, my company Instagram is really going up based on the content and talking. So we're actually toying with that. The Empowerment Mastermind, we're going to have like an impromptu one next week before we officially submit a Clubhouse. Cause I don't want to submit a Clubhouse and then there's no one there to man it, But I do think the Empowerment Mastermind is a great way, and Clubhouse is another platform.
Absolutely.
Don't you kind of wish you could see the people though?
I do wish I could see the people, but that's
the point. Yeah.
I'll leave it there for that. But it would probably get weird because if you got so many different faces on the screen, I don't know how you would break that up. It would be overwhelming.
Yeah. It would be like Zoom or, it's pretty much Zoom at that point. But I think that's why people like it. They just want to listen in. But because I'm a social person, I'm like, I want to see who I'm talking to, okay?
Well, we can do more like this so we can see who we talking to.
But it's so funny because if it's a podcast, I don't mind, when it's the experts. But if I'm there and you got to wait like 3 hours, like I did that once. I waited 3 hours or 2 hours to raise my hand. And I was so bummed because I wanted to talk to Grant Cardone. So like right after I asked my question, Grant Cardone came into the room and I was like, dang it, But yeah, no, you get to see like some really cool people, but I don't know. I just don't like, it's like, I get it. It's trying to get you closer to those people and it's accessible. But then again,
but it's time consuming as well.
It's time consuming.
And there's no set formula to how you do it yet. It's one of these necessary evils.
Yeah, I think, for me, my target customer, and I'm going too much into Clubhouse right now, so, but my target customer is actually tech companies. And so right now, when you search tech companies, there isn't a category for that. I don't know if you've noticed, like if you put like cybersecurity, those Clubhouse, they're not open yet. So once I think it becomes more like relevant to what I do, then I could go in there.
Maybe you could be the person that launches it.
That's true. Yeah. I did think of that too.
So be the first in the space.
It's just going to take so much time. Yeah. But we're going to actually go on Clubhouse next week. So maybe it'll, re-energize me again. Because I just remember that week was like crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you do, invite me to the space. Let's become. Okay. Let's become. I'm gonna follow you on Clubhouse.
Follow you on Clubhouse. What's your Clubhouse handle?
It's TAR. I think it's Terrell's. Let me see. Let's look at it right now.
Yeah, mine is at Meri Birhane. So just my full name.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna add you right here in a second. So, Meri, it's been a pleasure. I love hearing your story and all the great tips and advice and inspiration you've given our listeners. I would love to have you back again, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay with you? Of course. This was fun and relaxing, so thank you.
Yeah, anytime. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our session today. No big send-off. Join Clubhouse if you want to keep connected. And you guys have a great rest of your